joined with Bud Morris. He is the president as well as the founder of Canada's Best Store Fixtures. Bud, how you doing today?
Doing great. Doing fantastic. It's great to be here with you, Mark, as usual.
Well, listen, the last number
Feeling
of months...
inspired this morning. Feeling inspired.
Great. Inspired. I love that. The last number of months, your team's been sharing a lot of case studies. You put out a case study on Circle K, Summerhill Market, Bed Bath & Beyond. I saw one where you were talking about a Purelator national program that you guys put out. And it's cool, of course, to be able to highlight the successes. But a few weeks ago, you and I were talking about the Trainwrecks, let's say, the non-successes that tends to happen with any business. I mean, you guys have been doing this for close to 20 years, so there's got to be some things that have gone sideways along the way. And so maybe this will be the greatest talk ever, or maybe this will never see the light of day because the stuff you're about to share we can't even put out in the public.
But the skeletons may come out of the closet.
Yeah, wait for the lawsuits to happen, right? But today we're going to talk about the projects that don't go well, that you can draw on, that you can walk us through, but also, of course, the lessons learned. Because when things are going well, you know, it's cool, it's great, you feel happy, you feel proud, but it doesn't mean that you've necessarily learned much from it. But when things go wrong, oh boy, you either have to learn or you go out of business, right?
Yeah, no question. Yeah. You know, thinking about this topic, the lessons are consistent, anyways, it brought me back to the early days of the business when we first got started, and how, you know, I've always been this, we can do it no matter what. No matter if our client needs us, then we're going to be there, and I'm not going to say no to anything ever. And quite often that would make my team quite upset with me. Certainly our production people would be upset with me. But we were just like, go. I mean, people need our help. We got to help them. So, so I wouldn't say no to a lot. And so I recall, again, back in our very early days, customers were at an all-time premium. And so we had a big, sophisticated manufacturer coming in for their first meeting and tour of our facility, which was far smaller than it is today at that
well, hold
point.
on. So for people who may not know, kind of your background or your history, like as the founder, when we say that you're the founder of Canada's Best Store Fixtures, like your shop was a small shop. And your team was a small team. Like when you guys started on day one or a few months in, it's not like you brought in venture capitalists and like had all of the stuff you guys have now and all the square footage and all the team. You're laughing.
Right.
I remember you telling me a story about your first welding table where you welded it together, like you built it yourself, right? Like with your hands.
You're changing it a little bit. So I'll tell you. So we had the table. We were just buying welding equipment. We hadn't hired a welder yet. We had a guy that we knew that we wanted to hire, but we needed some equipment. So I bought a welder and bought a table, and the table gets delivered, and it's a 4x8 by 4 foot tall solid steel. I don't know if you've seen a welding table, but they're, you know, a very heavy piece. So it gets delivered, and, you know, I have a pump truck. So I stick the pump truck under and I roll it out, and the table, and I didn't even think about it, but the table is upside down on a skid. So pull it off, truck drives away, and, you know, I'm there, and I called my brother-in-law and I said, so we got to turn this thing over. We don't have a forklift. We got to turn this thing over.
And this weighs like hundreds and hundreds of pounds, or
hundreds, hundreds, hundreds of
like
pounds,
a half ton or something. It's a heavy table, right?
Yeah, if I had to put people on it, it'd probably take 10 of us to flip it over. So that's not going to work. So I go to Home Depot and I buy some rope. I buy the heaviest, thickest rope that I can find, and I bring it back and tie off the table and throw the rope over the truss in the shop, and I rigged this thing up so, I can lift it. Two of us can lift it a little bit, at a time. So we're two of us are lifting it and one pulling the rope, so I can get it up a couple of inches and then hold it, take a break, get it up a couple of inches and hold it, take a break, and got it up onto its side and then got it up on top of it. And then that table has to stay right there. We're not moving it from that spot. That is now the welding area. Yeah, this is like
but
early
you said,
days
hold on.
stuff.
You
Crazy.
said there was a tipping point. There was a
Oh
tipping
yeah,
point where the table is going over, and then now the three of
right.
you, there's no stopping it, right?
No, yeah. Where it goes, it's landing. Yeah, it wasn't a soft landing, I can tell you. It's a hell of a bang.
I love it. I love it. Now, I've known you for over a decade, so even when we started working together and got the chance to get to know each other better, I mean, even then the company was way different than it is now. So I just wanted to set the scene for
Sure.
everyone, because when we talk about the early days of CBSF, again, it's you're an entrepreneur. Like you guys were self-funded. You were bootstrapping it. So
Ground up.
so so you did what you had to do. So okay, so first story, you were saying in the early days you were having a customer come to visit.
Yeah. So we're trying to clean the place up and make it look like it's bigger than it is, because our customer is a large, sophisticated manufacturer, and then the shop is very small and very unsophisticated. So we're trying to make it, we're kind of smoke and mirrors kind of a thing. So our boardroom table is in the middle of our office where there are people in cubicles, I think 3 at the time, around the boardroom table. So, and I think there's 10 people coming. There's 10 clients coming. So, we've got pastries and coffee and so on and so forth. So we're moving things around the shop as well. My brother-in-law at 8 o'clock the night before our meeting, which is at 9 o'clock the next morning, he's moving a skid, and he punches the skid right through the wall into our office, which is right beside the boardroom table. There's a massive hole in the drywall now. So imagine.
Hold on. So the night before, just like hours before, you guys are
Yeah,
cleaning up, and he
hours.
drives he drives it through the wall.
Puts it right through the wall. Yeah, which was fantastic. So okay, so I'm not. I certainly can't leave it like that. That's not the impression that we want to give them, and I can't cancel it. It was so hard for me to put this meeting together. So called some friends, some drywall guys. We bought some industrial fans. We rebuilt the wall. Oh, we worked on it all night. We all did. Rebuilt the wall. Taped, mudded, sanded. We've got fans everywhere, just trying to dry this stuff as fast as possible, and then have to paint it, and then go home and get cleaned up and be all spry for the the dog and pony show first thing in the morning.
Oh, that is so funny. Like,
Eyes are bleeding.
yeah, like looking back, I imagine you could have just grabbed a drywall knife, cut like a door-sized opening, and just say, "Oh, we're just making some renovations. Ignore that." But
Right. Yeah.
instead, you
Yeah.
guys jumped
Yeah.
on fixing it.
Yeah. No, we got to fix it right now because which is anyway. This back, going back in the time tunnel, and still some of it today. I still don't like to say no to things. I just, now I go in eyes wide open a little more and a little more communicative than I used to. I used to just sort of bring it all inside. Don't worry about it. Give it to me and I'll fix it and I'll get it done and my team will get it done and we're fine. You don't say no. You still don't say no, but you make sure that you're communicating and educating and just talking about updating. And I mean, nobody wants to say no. And I've sort of I've instilled this culture into our people, and our people are fantastic. And sometimes they run a little too far with it, and I have to rail them back in. So, which is a strange position for me, but.
Yeah, I mean it's a great point, because as an entrepreneur, you want to be able to say yes to everything. But I used to work
Sure.
with my team, and actually we had this kind of saying, yes, however. because I don't think it's great to say no to clients, to customers, to clients, especially if from their point of
No,
view,
terrible.
if they're bringing something up or if they're asking for something, they must be doing it for a reason and it must be important to them. And so being the one to say no, it's like nobody likes the party pooper. So I always tried to, and I do this with myself, I try to think of yes, however, right? Because any request is going to have an impact on time or on budget or on quality or something. And so if you think it's not really the best idea, it's like, yes, we can totally do that for you. However, here's the impact. And I think that if you
Right.
explain, really truthfully, like the impact of this request, and then you put it on their side to say, like, is it worth like a cost benefit analysis almost? Is it worth the extra time, or is it worth the extra budget, or is it worth the hit in quality, or maybe it'll be less effective, or whatever it might be. Um, in your
Right.
case, like hey, we could totally do that for you, but the shelves might fall over, or it might be, I'm thinking of fixtures that aren't counterbalanced properly or whatever it is, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
we could totally
No,
build
no,
this
yeah,
out
you're
of
absolutely
thin
right.
aluminum.
And that comes up quite often, actually, where a client will have a new thought or a new design and want to, prototype it and execute it in far too short a period of time. And we'll have to say, listen, this is, and I've had this happen several times where a client will say to me, you guys are the experts. You know how to build it. I'm going to leave it to you to build it. And my response will be, yes, you are absolutely correct. We are the experts. However, we would feel better as the experts in testing this before we go to market. And testing is requiring some time and to wait and see the results and people grow very impatient with that time that's required. And again in the early days we would just go. We just go. Um, and then if something fails, then you get into a very adversarial kind of relationship, and that's not fun for anybody. Nobody likes that.
Yeah.
Well, you did it. No, it was your idea. It's your design. Well, you're the expert. You got to lay it out. I don't like saying no. However, just I love your statement there. Yes, however, don't say no. No is not the answer. The answer is yes, and how and what's required. That's the answer.
Yeah. I had a client, well, it wasn't even a client, a prospect once tell me, because I was going through I was frankly, they didn't have enough time, they didn't have enough budget. I thought their expectations were unrealistic. And, they said something to me which I never forgot, which was, Mark, you're telling us all the stuff we can't do. Why don't you spend some time telling us the stuff we can do? And I was like, oh, that's good. But, and that's a lesson. Yeah, I was like, ooh, wow. That was a really good point. But two follow-up questions for you. So one, how did the meeting go with this large furniture manufacturing client? And two, did your brother-in-law ever drive anything else through anything else?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it that he does not. He's not allowed to drive anything anymore. We don't really allow him to touch it. It's vehicles. That's yeah. That was an official rule. That was exactly what happened. Tony, love you, but you're not touching the forklift anymore. You're not allowed to touch the forklift. You can come around if you need someone to drive a forklift. I will drive it for you. So the meeting ended up being very light. I shared the story at the tail end of the meeting with them. I said, just so you all know what
Oh,
we've
you
done here
you
to
revealed it after
I
all of
did, yeah,
that.
yeah, I did. I couldn't keep it in. I was just there was
You were just
there
so
was
proud. You were just so proud of
I
the hustle,
I
weren't you?
100% I was absolutely that I had to share it. So I don't know at the end of that if they walked away thinking these guys are nuts, probably, um, but they're so willing to help. We've got to do business with them. So yeah, they have been a client for many many years now. So it ended up being a good story, and it's one that kind of sticks with me. That and the welding table. I mean, there's been a ton of them over the years. I mean, the amount of hour, I mean, in your business, the amount of hours that you put in the early days of building a business and the crazy things that you do along the way. Um, you can't write that stuff. It's
Yeah.
it
And
doesn't go in a textbook anywhere.
no, most people don't talk about it. And if when they hit the old age and they're writing their memoirs or their autobiographies, they're kind of glossing over things, aren't they?
Right. Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to spend quite a bit of time with you, and I can pick your brain and ask questions, and it's something that's great. But one thing that I've always appreciated about the culture that you guys have built at CBSF and the team, but it's driven by you. It's this idea of like whatever it takes, like
Right.
whatever it takes. And I think that it's something that people appreciate in business, but because it is so hard to find vendors or suppliers or companies that care about your project as much as you do.
I genuinely do. Yeah.
In my experience, when companies are assessing vendors or partners, they almost think like it's an act, because it's like it must be a sales act or it must just be very shallow or front. But once once you start to hear these stories about the stuff that you guys have gone through, I know
Yeah.
with my organization, the stuff we've gone through just to try and deliver, just to do it, because it's like we just want this to be really, really good for you.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
that's what builds these lasting relationships, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got one right now, and I'm not going to name them, but an international sports brand. So we started talking probably 6, 7 months ago, initial sort of discussions, and so this brand had been importing everything for their stores from either the US or from overseas. That's how they were building their stores. And they were getting frustrated and fed up with the exchange rates and lead times. And of course, importing products from China over the past couple of years has been a bit of a challenge, and rising costs and so on and so on. So we start to talk with them, and they've got a few projects coming up, and like any initial relationship, there's a courting process. They want to see whether we're qualified. They figure out, yes, we are. Okay, we've got a challenge for you, and they messed up. They cut off their ties with their existing supply chain probably a little too early, and then came to us and said, okay, we need your help. We've already, we've already agreed to this. Here's the end date. Now we've got to start working backwards. So so initial stores, yeah, we did what we normally do, and we go way above and beyond and pull it off and execute, and everything's great. It's a home run. So during this process, we're falling more and more in love with each other, and the people in charge over there are getting more and more confident in our abilities. Well, then they do the same thing over again, and they hack off like all of their supply chain and say, "Congratulations, guys! We're giving it all to you. We love you guys."
Congratulations. Really
Yeah,
tight
I
timelines,
go,
right?
yeah. Well, we got to talk about all that. So, but then it becomes, they just come to us and just say, okay, so here's all the stores we're going to give you. Here's the dates, and we're just going to go, whoa, you know, it's all new product. It all has to be engineered. And we're in a sort of a labor crunch right now. I don't know if you know this or not. North America is going through a bit of a labor crunch. I have to hire another 50 people just to do this project for you guys. And anyways, the long and short of it was, 20 years ago, I would have been so over the moon. I would have taken it all, and everyone in this place probably would have wanted to kill me. But the lessons learned are that you have to have conversations with the client, and in some cases, it's disappointing. They have shareholders. They promised all the way up the line that they build this store, this store, this store, this store. This is a a prototype store, and there's all these things that are very, very exciting. But I don't want to set you up for failure. I'm going to tell you exactly what we're going to be able to do, and I'm going to tell you the we're shooting for this, but we might end up with this. And I'm going to keep reminding you, and I'm going to suggest that you share that information with your senior leadership, because I don't want to set you up for failure, and I don't want to set myself up for failure. Those are the
Mm.
big lessons learned. We sort of do it over and over and over again. Sometimes I've got to remind my people, because I'll sort of talk out of both sides of my face. I'll go to my people and say, "Don't you dare say no to anybody. We're taking it on. Let's go. We want to challenge the organization." Um, but then, when the operations people get the best of me, I have to set everybody down and say, "Okay, we've done everything we can. Now we have to start setting expectations," and that just comes with communication with your client and an open dialogue and honesty. And if they trust you, that's an easier conversation to have. You're not just getting lazy. They believe you, that you're not just getting lazy and gonna let their
Yeah.
timeline sag.
That's another lesson that I've learned in business, running a service-based business. I would say to the team, it's easy to make the sale because all you got to do is just make really big promises, right?
Sure.
But it's
Yeah.
it's actually
Yeah.
much harder to keep the client, keep the sale, keep expectations, and it requires. I know you guys have an amazing project management team, so that must help. But it's
Yeah.
that constant communication, constant reminding of here's the vision. Let's not lose sight of the vision, and here are the hopes, and here's what we're trying to do, and let's keep pushing, and let's keep trying, and let's keep going. And then here's all of the hurdles and the hard work and the execution and everything we need to do to actually make it happen. I know that
Right.
you were mentioning that you had a large automotive retailer who was also kind of facing a similar situation where like it comes down to managing expectations and communicating, right?
Yeah. And to what I touched on earlier, that, new product, new prototyping, new, in a lot of cases, uh, retailers will go to design houses, and design houses will design fixturing or furnishings that may or may not function in a retail space. Maybe they're not sturdy or hardy enough, and this has happened with a particular automotive group that we deal with. Is a designer builds something that is, or designs something that is going to be so expensive, it doesn't make it, like, it just doesn't make sense. And you know our client comes to us with this design, and they're all excited about it, and our senior leadership is all on board, and everyone right up to the top of the chain is excited about this design. And I look at it and go, that's a bad idea. And just suck the air out of the room. It's a great idea. Yeah, we can build it. The store will probably never be profitable. Like,
Hmm.
in 100 years, you
Hmm.
won't get a return on this investment. Which then, it put our customer, our contact, in a very precarious position, because the reality of it is they should have known, and they should have come to the experts prior to selling it all the way up the chain, because now they got to go back hat in hand and explain to their leaders that, upon further review, what I sold you on is probably not going to work for us, which is a very difficult position for them, and I feel bad for that, because because we have a relationship, and we have a trusting relationship, but they might just have got the cart out in front of the horse a little bit. And sometimes things move quickly, right? Sometimes things get away from you. And in that particular case, that was a tough lesson learned for them, but we built a better relationship out of it. And that said, next time you're thinking about these things, let's have a chat before you before you go crazy
Yeah.
and push it all the way up the executive line, because that was a hard one for them to learn, and it was a hard one for me. You know, I could just imagine sitting in their seat and thinking, um, okay, well, so if Bud's telling me that, this is prohibitive, maybe I should go and check with somebody else. Maybe Bud doesn't know what he's talking about. Maybe this is above Bud's head. Um, as it turns out, no, it wasn't. And it was sound advice.
I often question this because there's a generalist approach to business. Great, you're going to do a
Yeah,
lot of different things for people, but you're not going to be great at all of it. And then there's the specialist approach to business, which I believe that we're moving back into a more specialized market, a niche market, because
100%.
the
100%.
expectations from retailers, the expectations from smaller smaller entrepreneurial driven companies or even large publicly traded corporate companies is that like everything implemented will be the best, world class, working with experts. And so you need to be able to work with specialists, but it's super challenging to line up all these different niche specialists with all these different organizations. It requires a ton of project management. It requires the ability to in-house for retailers, for them to know all the information their specialists are going to know too, so they can figure out how to coordinate them all. So there is still a
Sure.
place for like the one-stop shop, but being a design builder of retail environments and spaces and fixtures, you bring almost this very pragmatic. How do we build it? How do we price it? What will be the quality? What will be the lifespan? What will be the ROI? You can't help but ground things in like reality because you know that
Yeah.
your team has to build it. You know that your
Yes.
name is going on the side of the fixture, and you know that your reputation is on the line. So it
Yes.
makes sense to speak to you early in the process or to work with you through design and everything else.
Yes.
But do you find that being that pragmatic keeps you from those aspirational kind of pushes that maybe retailers are looking for?
When we brought design in-house years ago, that was a tough decision for me because design is, you got all these pragmatic people, and then you throw in a couple of designers over here, and the designers are doing, blue sky renderings of things. You want to push them for new ideas, for new looks, whereas all your manufacturing, engineering people are all just, okay, well, it's a box. We build a box. Where, your designers are building, okay, well, how about we round the box? That kind of thing. And you don't want to stub that toe. You want to be able to push the envelope. So, and then even more challenging, being the guy over top of it, and sort of managing both of these personalities is not, it's not easy. It's not an easy balancing act, I can tell you. So and there's some cases that our designers, they if they spend too much time with their engineers, they get a little they get a little soft. They just start building boxes and just designing boxes. Go, "Wait, well, can't you think of anything different than that?" Well, maybe I could. So we kind of keep them separate. They're separate mentalities for sure. And then, at our project management and sales people, the same thing. If they're you can't if they're saying yes and bring it in, and the production people are saying no, stop bringing it in, then at some point in time the salespeople might say, I'm not going to bring it in because I'm just upsetting people all the time. So it's this constant balancing act, and just sort of retooling, refocusing, and it's like any business. So you're poking different areas to see how things are. And this is our busy season, right? The summer is when we're plowing production through, because every retailer wants to get their capital plan completed prior to Black Friday, prior to the Christmas selling season. So we're plowing it through. This is our time to plow it through, and it's exhausting. And quite honestly, at the end of the summer, if it's like a exhale, and then regroup and get ready for the next wave to come around. It's exciting. It's very exciting business, this retail business. I love it.
Well, I think we're going to end it there. I mean, the takeaways I have from all of your hard lessons learned, I'm glad I didn't have to learn them the hard way, is, one, you got to be able to come to every project with a yes, like, yes, however, how do we make
Yeah.
this happen? Yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
kind of mentality. Obviously, being willing to do whatever it takes to push something through is how you execute on these challenging projects. But
100%.
most of all, it seems that there's no fear of over communicating. Like there is no
No.
risk that at any point in these types of projects are we over communicating, over
Right.
sharing, having too many touch points, too many check-ins. I don't think that's ever going to happen, right?
Right. Absolutely. Just don't say no. Just don't say no when I'm around anyways.